So I want to tell you a quick story, and I promise if you stay with me to the end of this video, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible, that this will help you deepen your understanding of yourself from the traumas that you possibly endured during your childhood, as well as help you deepen your understanding of humanity as a whole. And for the example, I'm going to be using my toddler son, because that is going to really help us understand where our caregivers went wrong and how they responded to us, because they were never actually taught about human development. Therefore, they misinterpreted their interactions with us, thinking that we were a bad kid, when in actuality, we were doing normal developmental behaviors, which is scientifically proven. And they were supposed to be helping us advance past that. So here's a quick story. Earlier, my son asked for a biscuit. And the way that he asked is, he said, "I need a biscuit." As a scientist who studies human development, understand that he truly is still learning language. Like, he's understanding what all these words mean, and he's doing his best to express himself, like any of us. Remember how in high school, when you were forced to take a second language or third language, and it was really hard for you to figure out the right vocabulary? That's what it's like when we come Earthside, but even worse, because we don't even have another language to rely on to help us understand the new language we're being exposed to. So anyway, he said, "I need a biscuit." And I said, "Baby, I think what you mean to say is that I want a biscuit." And then he thought about it and said, "I want a biscuit." And I said, "Okay, that's cool. You can have one biscuit." He started getting upset. The reason why he was getting upset is because he realized in that moment, to some degree, with his own limited comprehension of his own internal experiences, he was realizing that, like, one of them was maybe not what he wanted, right? So he said, he's crying almost at this point, but he's come so far with regulation compared to where he started, because we've been teaching him. Me and my husband teach him. So he said, I want 3 biscuits. And he held up 3 fingers. "I want 3 biscuits. And I said, "Yeah, you probably do want 3 biscuits, right?" And I said, "Okay, we can do 3 biscuits. We can do 3 biscuits." I said, "But that's all we can have," right? Then he increased the number again. Now, when we were growing up and the traumas that were being done to us, because again, people were not taught about human development, they would think that if the child goes from 3 to 5, they're trying to manipulate you or whatever. But do you know how complicated actual manipulation is? Actual manipulation requires a certain level of self-awareness, emotional intelligence skills, and a lot of other things that a 3-year-old does not yet have. Like, it's just not, they don't have that, right? So he went to 5 or whatever the next number was, not because he's trying to be manipulative, but because he genuinely is trying to figure out how all this works. He really does now want 5 biscuits. Because wouldn't you want 5 instead of 3 biscuits if you don't understand that you can't just eat cookies constantly all the time and be okay? So it's truly an innocent thing. And I, as his teacher, need to understand that it's innocent, not manipulative, not him being bad. It is literally him just innocently trying to understand his own internal experiences and trying to understand the world around him. And so I explained to him that, "Okay, buddy, no, we can't have 5, right? Because we keep increasing the number, right?" And he's crying at this point. So now it's time to stop teaching and time to help him regulate, right? He's overwhelmed. He needs me and my husband to help him regulate. My husband picked him up, helped calm him, and was rocking him. And then once he was calm, I came back to talk to him. And I said, "Hey, buddy, I absolutely understand why you would want 5 biscuits instead of 3 biscuits, because more biscuits seem like a great idea and a great experience. And you truly do want that, but we can't always have what we want. And we have to practice something we call gratitude for what we have in this situation. This is a good opportunity to practice." And through his deep breathing and tearfulness, he said, "Okay." Right? He's learning. He doesn't know what gratitude is. He doesn't know why he can't have 5, 6, 7 biscuits. Not because he's bad, but because this is a food that tastes good, and why can't I have an endless amount of it? Right? That's his logic. That's his toddler logic. And in order to understand why he is behaving how he behaves, I must use empathy to understand him for his perspective versus my understanding of the world. Right? And so by explaining it to him, I help him deepen his understanding of the world. But when we label these behaviors as bad, or, "Oh, this child is trying to manipulate me," we fail to teach. When in actuality, everything that little kids do is truly innocent. It's just that some of us are still struggling to see it that way because nobody had the empathy or patience for us. So we failed to get our needs met in order to learn these skills. But it's up to us to unlearn that and start healing so that we are not convincing ourselves that a 3-year-old that if you allowed them to would probably play with their poop or drink out the toilet is not trying to manipulate us. How could they? They're 3.